That beautiful four-wide salute all the way down the front stretch here at America's legendary oval. They see you, they salute you back as the stars of the ARCA Midwest Tour get ready to do battle for 150 laps this afternoon. Nathan Matz will go from the 33rd starting spot in the Matz Motorsports number 82 to his outside, the 2011 ARCA Midwest Tour champion of the Spring Green Health Mart and Pharmacy DMJ Trucking B&B Race Engines 39. That is Andrew Morrissey. The Nason's Landscaping Haste Builders Incorporated car corner number 14 goes from the 35th starting spot out of Roscoe, Illinois. That is Austin Nason. And starting at 36th on the grid in the POW MIA Freedom car, Bakkers Incorporated Wildwood Lodge number 76 from Mooresville, North Carolina, Jarek Johnson. 36 cars again will make it up to about lap 37 unless we have a caution right around that area, and that's where you will see our first competition yellow, where the drivers will have the chance to get on the pit lane, experience those live pit stops. Once again at the break about halfway, and then on lap 112 to set up for the final run to the checkered flag here on this lovely Sunday afternoon at the Milwaukee Mile. Lights out on the pace vehicle. Jeremy Miller and Mark Kraus will soon have the field handed over to them to set things in motion. Chad Finley and Griffin McGrath in the second row. Chris Wyckoff and the 77 of Ross Kenseth. Back in row number 3, Johnny Sauter, we said. A couple of third place finishes in the two ARCA Fest races here so far. We'll see if he can be 2 spots better today. Pace vehicle getting ready to pull off. Jeremy Miller and Mark Kraus hold the field at bay as they get ready to exit turn number 4 and come down the front stretch. The Howie Lettow Memorial 150 is underway. Jeremy Miller going to get a run on the inside, and he's bringing Chad Finley along for the ride. They're door-to-door. He and Mark Kraus out of the second turn. Miller to the lead, out to about 3 car lengths of that battle for the second spot. And that allows Chris Wyckoff to pull even with the 64 of Griffin McGrath as well. Everybody's scrambling into turns 3 and 4. Battles on for the second spot. Lap number 1 going to be in the books, and it will belong to Jeremy Miller as Chad Finley slides into second. So Finley into the second spot. Here comes Chris Wyckoff up to third. Johnny Sauter down on the bottom as well, getting ready to challenge Mark Kraus. Griffin McGrath trying to give Kraus a push on the outside. Then Kenseth behind. Eric Jones right in that battle as well. Anderson Bowen starting to work his way up through the field. He goes to the outside of Hasly and grabs another spot. Keep an eye on your quick qualifier. Anderson Bowen creeping in. Chris Wyckoff starting to put a little bit of pressure on the 42 of Finley. Nothing going there. We're still side by side behind in that battle for the 4th spot between Griffin McGrath and the 9 of Kraus. McGrath pulling ahead in turns 3 and 4. We'll see if he can seal off that spot on Mark Kraus and move it into the 4th spot. It looks like he will. Kraus still playing some defense now as Johnny Sauter catches up. Sauter with a quick dive down to the inside. Going to pull it side by side now with Kraus. He's trying to get up into the top 5 for the first time in this contest. Just not quite yet. Kraus on the backstretch gets a nice run. Will slide it back down low. Holds off Johnny Sauter for the time being. Meanwhile, Kenseth side by side with Eric Jones. And Anderson Bowen boxed in looking for somewhere to go. Johnny Sauter down low this time, might have the run on Kraus. Indeed he does. Pull him into the 5th spot now. Look at Jeremy Miller really stretching this lead out. The 5 is alive with about 5 laps in, and will be when they hit the stripe this time. Chad Finley looks like he's going to be busy playing some defense soon as Chris Wyckoff is there. Now Griffin McGrath closing in on the battle for second. Griffin McGrath going to take it to the top rope, taking a peek. Finley feeling the pressure from Chris Wyckoff. Thing is getting a little touch and go there that time over in turn number 2. Everybody makes it through. Johnny Sauter legging back a little bit back in the 5th spot, just kind of waiting to see what happens here. Finley up the track a little bit this time in 3 and 4. Here comes Wyckoff down to the bottom. Some space to work now for Chris Wyckoff. Chris Wyckoff down low looking for the 2nd spot. Sauter ready to put the challenge on Griffin McGrath for 4th. Meanwhile, Eric Jones is up another spot. He goes to the inside of Kraus. Right behind Anderson, Bowen is ready to challenge as well. We turn our attention back to the battle for the 2nd spot, as Finley is not yet ready to go away on the outside. Wyckoff trying to clear him. Finley gets a nice run out of 4. Noses ahead this time down the front stretch. Wyckoff is still there though. Wyckoff continuing to put that pressure on the inside line. Going back a little bit further, we take a look back at Anderson Bowen in the 29 car, getting ready to challenge Mark Kraus. This would be for the 7th spot right behind them. Kenseth, and look who this is. John Hunter Nemechek starting to close in as well. He's putting the pressure on Ross Kenseth right behind Anderson Bowen. Chad Finley has gotten away from Chris Wyckoff, sliding back into the 2nd spot. Not only doing that, but he's also stretching it back out over Wyckoff. Johnny Sauter has cleared the 64 of Griffin McGrath, sitting down in the 4th spot. McGrath back to 5th. Eric Jones all alone right now in the 6th spot. 7th spot contested. Here is Anderson Bowen back to the inside of Kraus. Out of turn number 4, Anderson Bowen trying to get that run. Down the front straightaway he will. Not yet clearing Kraus though as they enter turn number 1. It will be Anderson Bowen on the inside taking that spot. And here comes the 8 car of John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek now looking for a spot on Kraus. Side by side going into 3 and 4. John Hunter Nemechek. All 4 in a row this time as they enter turns 3 and 4. Chad Finley, Chris Wyckoff, Johnny Sauter, and the 64 of Griffin McGrath. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Getting ready to go into the blender now as Johnny Sauter wanted to take a spot away from Chris Wyckoff. Got turned away though. Oh. Chad Finley still holding court. Jeremy Miller's got to be loving this right now. He's got a huge lead over the rest of the pack, sitting out front to the tune of almost 2 seconds right now. Jeremy Miller clicks off a dozen this time by. Back to that battle for the 2nd spot. Wyckoff had a little bit of a look. Chad Finley said, not this time. Turns him away again. Meanwhile, Griffin McGrath trying to get back at Johnny Sauter, taking a little peek down to the inside. You got to kind of wonder now if guys are just content to ride at this point. Still a long time left. We're about 20 laps away from that first competition yellow. No need to do anything too crazy just yet. Good time to kind of test the car out and see what might be working, where it might be working, and try to figure out a little something for later on. Miller, Finley, Wyckoff, your top 3, followed up by Johnny Sauter. He might take a look this time at a turn number 4. Again, he takes a peek to the inside, but tucks it back in line down the front stretch. Griffin McGrath rounding up the top 5. 6th spot to Eric Jones. 7th spot belongs to Anderson Bowen right now. John Hunter Nemechek is up to 8th. Mark Kraus running in the 9th spot, and then rounding up the top 10, Ross Kenseth. Also want to watch that battle right behind Kenseth. 11th and 12th are 1 and 2 in ARCA Midwest Tour standings. Inverted though. 2nd place driver, current leading rookie contender, Ty Majeski running in the 11th spot in that 91. Current ARCA Midwest Tour point leader in the 87, Nathan Haslai. Wouldn't mind building up that advantage exiting the Milwaukee Mile today. He's got Ty Majeski right within striking distance, not trying anything just yet. Behind them, a pair of Sodders. Travis Sauter, the 5, Tim Sauter, 99. Racing Jason Weinkoff, 76. Behind the pair of Sodders. And Stephen Wallace, Matt Kasurik, Nick Murchik, the next in the group. Jeremy Miller continues to ride out front. His lead, however, is shrinking on Chad Finley. It was 1.85 seconds a couple of laps ago. It's down to 1.68. Finley and the gang might be catching up. Let's see what it is this time as Miller hits the stripe for lap number 17. The difference still at 1.68. So Miller riding comfortably out front right now. Second spot still contested. Finley not with a lot of room in case an error is to come. With Chris Weinkoff sitting back there in the third spot. Johnny Sauter fourth. Still has a mirror full of the 64 car of Griffin McGrath. We've got one coming down on pit lane right now. It is the 22 out of Colorado, Thornton, Colorado. That is Chris Eggleston with some issues on his machine headed down pit lane. Crew slowly coming over the wall, and it looks like they're going to lift the hood on that machine, so a tough break for the driver out of Thornton, Colorado, and we have a caution out. Caution is out. As the pace car pulls up, Miller and Finley get ready to set the pace. Chris Weinkoff, Johnny Sauter in row number 3. Or excuse me, in row number 2, and then in row number 3, that is Griffin McGrath on the inside. As we get ready to go back to green, it'll be lap number 24, and we're back underway. Look at this, 3 wide for the lead in turns 1 and 2. Weinkoff right down to the bottom. Finley pitched up top. Not a lot of space, but here comes Chris Weinkoff to the inside, to the lead. A daring 3 wide pass by the ARCA Midwest Touring Star. He'll take the top spot away. Finley to second, and Miller falls back to third. Here comes Johnny Sauter as well. Chris Weinkoff liked that move down on the inside, and now he's starting to take off up front. Miller continuing to follow back because here comes Eric Jones on the outside. And look at the run by Anderson Bowen. He slides up into the top 5. Sauter getting freight trained on the outside. John Hunter Nemechek now stepping toward the top 5 as well. Sauter sensing the danger, tries to go 3 wide himself down the front stretch to the inside of Miller with Anderson Bowen on the outside. Not a lot of space there for Johnny Sauter. Here is Nemechek on the outside, thought better of it. He files back behind that battle down for the 5th spot. Side by side, a pair of 5s. Miller gets the run down the backstretch. Here comes John Hunter Nemechek as well. You can see Sauter a little bit better in the turns, but he's getting outmotored a bit down the straightaways. Side by side, here he comes back to the inside. Does he have a little something for Miller on this lap? It doesn't look like it. So Jeremy Miller files back in a 5th. Here comes John Hunter Nemechek looking for the 6th spot on the outside. He's going to take that spot away. Griffin McGrath closing it back in on Johnny Sauter as well. Right behind them, it is the 77 of Ross Kenseth, and now making his way to the top 10, the 91 of Ty Majeski. Majeski looking to make up some points, make up some ground in the ARCA Midwest Tour standings. He's trying to close the gap on the 77 of Ross Kenseth. That would be the battle for the 9th spot as they race down the backstretch toward turns 3 and 4. Kenseth will fend him off for now. Chris Weinkoff, lap number 28, showing the way here at the Milwaukee Mile. Entering turn number 1, we have a battle for the 5th spot. It's John Hunter Nemechek sliding down to the inside of Jeremy Miller. Almost washes up into Miller. Coming out of the turn, that allows Miller to get away with that nice run on the high side. Nemechek will have to take it back into the 6th spot. He might have some pressure coming back from Johnny Sauter. Meanwhile, battle for the 2nd spot as well. Coming down to the inside, Eric Jones wants to take the spot away from Chad Finley. Through 1 and 2, Jones down on the bottom will swipe the 2nd spot from Finley. Anderson Bowen, our fast qualifier, closing in on that battle as well. 2, 3, and 4, entering turns 3 and 4. Finley filing back to the inside, looking for the 2nd spot on Jones. Might have to play some defense now as Anderson Bowen will take a look at the high side. Coming out of the turn, Finley throws it up toward the wall and makes sure that Anderson Bowen doesn't get a run down the front stretch. Bowen again peeking to the high side in 1 and 2. Going to try the outside-inside move. Let's see if he can get the run down to the bottom. Got there. Couldn't quite get enough momentum to slide to the inside of Finley. Looks like whatever was ailing Johnny Sauter earlier in this run has been rectified as Sauter's now gotten back around John Hunter Nemechek, and he'll start to close the gap a bit. Yes. Battles on for the 3rd spot. Anderson Bowen going to try that same outside-inside move this time, coming out of the 2nd turn. He almost got the right front to the left rear. Looked like he had the run, but Finley will turn him away again. They go into 3 and 4. Let's see if Finley leaves that inside line open once again. Bowen again jumps up top, swings it down low, pulling the little diamond maneuver, trying to grab any extra bit of momentum he can, but Finley just too much out of 4 once again. Back up front, that Kyle Busch Motorsports 51 that saw so much time out front here last year is closing the gap on the leader, Chris Weinkoff. Weinkoff's lead right now sitting at .303 seconds. 51 closing in quickly. Eric Jones trying to track down your leader as we hit the stripe for lap number 35. Jones keeping the 75 occupied, and once again Anderson Bowen peeks to the inside of Finley, but can't get the run. Turn our attention back to that battle now between John Hunter Nemechek and the 64 of Griffin McGrath. It'll be McGrath jumping to the top side of John Hunter Nemechek. That's for 7th as they exit turn number 4. McGrath has the outside on Nemechek. Down the straightaway, McGrath gets the run, noses ahead at the line. Just as he makes that pass on Nemechek, Johnny Sauter has gotten around Jeremy Miller. That'll be for the 5th spot. So Johnny Sauter up yet another. Anderson Bowen still putting all kinds of pressure on Chad Finley. Furious racing up in the top 5. Meanwhile, a battle for the lead is about to erupt as Eric Jones takes a look to the inside of Chris Weinkoff down the front stretch. Into turns 1 and 2. Tight quarters there. Jones to the inside. Pulling ahead, a lap car might play a factor in this one as they close in on Keller. And on the outside, Weinkoff holds on for now. Charging into 3 and 4, Weinkoff will turn aside the advance of Eric Jones. Coming to the stripe this time, it will be lap number 37. Jones still running in the 2nd spot. You see Finley ahead of Anderson Bowen. Griffin McGrath might try to pick off one more spot here as he closes in on Jeremy Miller. That would be for 6th. Here is McGrath taking a look to the inside of Miller. They exit turn number 2, racing down the backstretch. Has that right front to the left rear. We'll see if Miller can say no going into 3 and 4. That's exactly what he does. Tries to pull it down low. Couldn't quite find enough to get down there though, and here comes Griffin McGrath pressuring to the inside as the yellow comes out. Competition caution here on lap 37. Again, lap 37, competition yellow. Some great racing up in the top 5. You had Weinkoff holding off Eric Jones. Chad Finley had his hands full with Anderson Bowen, and Johnny Sauter was a little slow to get up to speed after that last restart. Finds his way back up into the top 5. Jeremy Miller running 6th, and he had just held off the advances of the 64 of Griffin McGrath here at the competition yellow at lap 37. Now you see Nathan Haslai at the back of the pack, not getting any official word as to why Nathan Haslai has stayed toward the back. May have made a second trip down pit lane afterwards. So we see Nathan Haslai now with a long way to go to catch back up to Ty Majeski and the rest of the contenders. We'll keep our eye on him. Still plenty of time to do it. 37 down here in this Howie Lettow Memorial 150 as Chris Weinkoff and Eric Jones get ready to lead the field back to green. Slowly they creep through 3 and 4, getting ready to turn it up, and we are racing again. Pretty much to start that, Weinkoff had wanted at least going into turns 1 and 2, but Eric Jones fights back down low. Here's Anderson Bowen saying, "You guys aren't getting away from me." It's going to be Weinkoff taking the lead. Here comes Bowen fighting on the outside of Eric Jones, looking for the runner-up spot. Bowen, your quick qualifier, moving through quickly, side by side for that runner-up position. Jones not going to let him have it just yet. Bowen with a power move down the front stretch into the second spot. Will take it away from Eric Jones, not satisfied. He goes right to work on Weinkoff. Takes a look to the inside. Weinkoff still about a car length ahead. Looks like he's going to try to seal off the inside going into 3 and 4. Bowen watching, waiting, and contemplating back in that runner-up spot. Still plenty of time, but here comes Eric Jones now, ready to fight back for second. Meanwhile, Ross Kenseth has found a little something. A couple of Michigan drivers going at it now. Finley, the DeWitt, Michigan native, the Boyne Machine, Michigan-based team of Ross Kenseth in that 77, putting the challenge on now for 4th. It'll be Kenseth taking a peek to the inside of Finley this time at a 4. Through 1 and 2, it's Kenseth back down to the inside of Finley. Griffin McGrath right there. He's going to try to swing it topside on Kenseth. Here comes McGrath with the run down the backstretch. Right behind them it is this 91 car. Eric talked about him. Ty Majeski closing in on that battle for the 5th spot. Finley's gotten away from Kenseth. Here comes McGrath again to the outside. Look at the power move out of the second turn. Griffin McGrath down the backstretch, gets away from Kenseth, and now it's Majeski swinging to the inside. Ty Majeski for the 6th spot. McGrath not done. He goes to the inside of Finley looking for 4th. Nothing there from McGrath this time. This time Majeski down to the inside as they enter turn number 1. Majeski nosing ahead of it, but Kenseth gets a nice run on the outside. He'll get away from Majeski. McGrath going to try to set up Finley again this time. Down the backstretch, Finley read it well. Nowhere for McGrath to go just yet. He'll have to tuck it back in line on Finley and then backs out going into 3 and 4. Trying to set him back up. To the inside again. Finley pushes up out of turn number 4. Here comes Griffin McGrath down the front stretch, door to door with Finley. McGrath and Finley unable to settle that scrap for 4th, and Finley says, I'll take that back as they exit turn number 2, and he gets back away from Griffin McGrath. Drivers taking a peeks to the inside, unable to do anything. McGrath and the 91 of Ty Majeski both trying to advance positions down low, not quite paying off on that lap. Your top 3's got to like this. All of that battling for the 4th spot has allowed them to break away a freight train down the backstretch. Chris Weinkoff still showing the way, followed up by a fast qualifier, Anderson Bowen, Eric Jones, the 3rd of that trio exiting turn number 4. Bowen continues to trail on the tire tracks of Chris Weinkoff. Again, McGrath getting ready to take a peek to the inside of Chad Finley out of the second turn, but once again, Finley a little too stout up top. Behind them, Kenseth has gotten away from Ty Majeski, who's falling back into the clutches of Mark Kraus. Kraus taking a look to the inside of Majeski. They'll exit turn number 4. A little look by Kraus, the outside pole sitter, trying to work his way back toward the top 5. Meanwhile, up in that top 3, Eric Jones putting some pressure on Anderson Bowen for the 2nd spot. Bowen says no, turns him away out of the second turn and then gets away from Eric Jones. A nice little look there by Eric Jones to try to give Anderson Bowen something to think about in the 2nd spot. And Bowen getting ready to play some offense now, takes a look to the inside of Weinkoff. Weinkoff's lead a little tenuous right now. Here comes Bowen. Trouble for Weinkoff. He slows going into 3. It looked like something was amiss on the 75 there for a moment as he slid up high. Whatever it was, he seems to have it back, but Bowen's taking the lead away. At least at the line, Weinkoff trying to fight back. It looked like something was going wrong with the 75 as they entered turn 3 and 4 last time. Whatever it was is clean now. And Weinkoff is back to the lead. A suspicious moment there for the 75 of Weinkoff, but everything seems to be A-OK as he fights back to the top spot. So that files Bowen back in a 2nd. Eric Jones running 3rd. Finley still holding off Griffin McGrath in the 4th spot. Maybe not for long because here comes McGrath back down to the inside once again. Once more, Finley too strong out of the turn. Keeping the 64 car in the 5th spot. Ross Kenseth running in 6th, 7th spot to Ty Majeski. 8th spot to the 9 of Mark Kraus. And look who's starting to move back up. Johnny Sauter back into the top 10 of the 5. Right behind him, John Hunter Nemechek. Those are the first 2 cars that pitted. They've worked their way through just a bit. Tim Sauter also pitted on that last break. He's closing the gap on the 66 of Stephen Wallace. That would be for 11th. They exit turn number 2. Tim Sauter putting all kinds of pressure on the 66 of Wallace, going into 3 and 4. Nothing there just yet, but Sauter with those fresh adjustments on the 99, going to get a little bit into the backside of the 66 car, letting him know he's there over in 3 and 4. Stephen Wallace able to hang on. They continue to watch those cars that did not pit, hanging on up front. The 75 of Wyckoff, 29 of Bowen, 51 of Eric Jones. Again, Bowen closes the gap on the 75 of Wyckoff. However, he's going to hang right in his rear view mirror, stays out high with Wyckoff, and they'll freight train down the front stretch again. Eric Jones sitting back in that 3rd spot has had a good view of the battle for the lead when it happens. There you see Wyckoff. Looked like he backed up the turn that time into 3 and 4, allowing Bowen to close the gap again. Anderson Bowen going to take yet another peek down to the inside, and once more Wyckoff turns him away, and here comes Eric Jones to the outside. He's going to try to pick up the tire tracks of the 75 and slide to the outside, seeing if he can keep Anderson Bowen down there, and indeed he does. On the outside line, a nice move by the 51 car, and Eric Jones is now up to the runner-up spot. And he's going to slide right to the inside of Wyckoff. Jones not satisfied with second, looking for the lead now. Almost pushes up into Wyckoff. He'll hold off Jones for the time being. Eric Jones with a nice little move to get around the 29 car on the last lap. You can see Wyckoff into 3 and 4, may just be backing up that turn, getting out a little earlier so he can grab some momentum out. That's where Jones starts to close up the gap a little bit on the 75 of Wyckoff, but you can see down the straightaway, Wyckoff able to get away just a little bit, or at least hang on to that advantage over Eric Jones. Hitting the stripe for lap 55 this time. Top 3 still well within range of each other, just in case one were to fall out. Wyckoff, Eric Jones, Anderson Bowen. Quite a ways back to the 42 of Chad Finley. He is not yet in the clear with the 64 of Griffin McGrath, keeping pace back in 5th. 6th spot to Ross Kenson. 7th spot to the 91 of Majeski. Mark Krause is 8th. 9th spot, Johnny Sauter. Rounding out the top 10, John Hunter Nemechek. Holly Schaefer Jr. starting to make some moves in that 7. He is now up into the 11th spot. Schaefer was behind Tim Sauter and the 66 of Stephen Wallace when those two were battling for the spot. And Schaefer has gotten around both of them. The 17-year-old driver, last year's Indiana Motor Speedway champion, will come across the line this time in the 11th spot. Keep your eye on the 7. Once again, John Hunter Nemechek is starting to close the gap on the 5 of Johnny Sauter. That would be the battle for the 9th spot as they race into 3 and 4. Nemechek takes a little peek down low. Sauter turns them away for now. Doesn't want to give the youngster too much room down there. But here comes Nemechek again, taking a look to the inside. Sauter able to hold him off for now. They race down the back stretch, or excuse me, down the front stretch into turns 1 and 2. And Nemechek takes a peek up high. He's going to try that outside-inside move. Sauter saw it in the rearview mirror, diagnosed it, ran his line, and turned him away. Nemechek continuing to rev up in that 10th spot, trying to find 9th. Johnny Sauter will not allow. Everything looking pretty copacetic up front right now for the 75 of Chris Weinkoff. Led some laps at the Border Wars race at Indiana, led some laps at State Park Speedway in Wausau. Still looking for his first ever ARCA Midwest Tour win. Could it come here at the Milwaukee Mile today? He's on lap number 60 now. And that Jay Vandergee Stone number 75. Been so close to wins before. Looking strong early on here at America's legendary oval. Eric Jones running second. Third spot, Anderson Bowen. They're not going to make this easy on Weinkoff. It's Finley. It's the 64 of Griffin McGrath. McGrath taking a peek to the inside of Chad Finley this time at a turn number 4. Will he get the run this time? He will not. They race down the front stretch into 1 and 2. Finley trying to hold off Griffin McGrath again. Now McGrath takes a little peek down to the inside, but again, Finley finding the momentum on the high side, gets away. A repeat performance every time through 1 and 2, it seems, where Griffin McGrath finds that line. You can see it again here in 3 and 4. But Finley finds the momentum. Maybe this time it's good for McGrath. He'll try it again down the front stretch into 1 and 2. If he can keep pace through 1 and 2, he might be able to find enough out of the turn. Not this time, though. Finley with a real power move, and we've got one down into the grass. It's Nathan Matz, and that will bring out the yellow. Nathan Matz on the backstretch spins it down into the grass, and caution is out on lap number 62. So there indeed was the double up and the 1 to go. We see Chris Weinkoff jumping to the outside again. That will leave Eric Jones down on the bottom. Now, important to note that Chris Weinkoff is the leader, so he's the one that gets to determine the pace as we come back to the green flag. Anderson Bowen in that second row, alongside the 42 of Chad Finley. He had his hands full with Griffin McGrath, and we'll see if maybe that inside line could take off, if that would be good news for McGrath. He's had a pretty quick race car, just had a hard time working his way up to the top. Some contact as we come back to green. And Eric Jones will try to get it right around the 75 as they go into turn 1. And Majeski slows on the front stretch. On the outside, it will be Weinkoff taking off. And the yellow is back out. I do not believe that the ARCA Midwest officials like that start, so we're going to be trying that one again. So again, no start because of the calamity up front, so we'll try this one again. 68 on the board. We are closing in on the halfway point of the Swiss Colony Howie Lettow Memorial 150 presented by RaceTeamGear.com. We'll see if Eric Jones and Chris Weinkoff can play nice this time through 3 and 4. Looking better. Turn 4 is where things got it broke loose last time. Still looking good, and we are back to green. All time, Majeski just saw a couple of cars go past him. One to the outside, one to the inside. John Hunter Nemechek moves up. So does the 5 of Johnny Sauter right out of the restart. And Majeski still backtracking a bit. Here comes Tim Sauter to the outside. Closing in Jeremy Miller as well. Back up front, Weinkoff still showing the way. Chad Finley has slid to 3rd. He's looking for 2nd now. Eric Jones turns away Chad Finley. He'll file back into 3rd, and now Jones ready to put some pressure on for the lead. Finley feeling the heat from Anderson Bowen once again. Ross gets it running in the 5th spot. Mark Krause has moved up to 6th. Top 10 goes into a blender after that restart. Look at this, we're almost 3 wide now for the 3rd spot. Ketsit trying to go all the way down low as Anderson Bowen slides to the inside of Finley. We are 3 wide now, a little bit further back as Krause goes to the outside of the 64 McGrath, and Johnny Sauter dives down to the inside. Things getting very heated as we near the midway point. Every spot important in this one. Chris Weinkoff's got the best one right now, and he's starting to stretch it back out over Eric Jones. Bowen still running 3rd. Finley in the 4th spot. Ross gets it rounding out the top 5, and we have trouble over in turns 3 and 4. Cardell Potter has slowed. And I believe that would be Paulie Schaefer Jr. over in turn number 4. We had mentioned just how well Paulie Schaefer Jr. was running, and it looks like He may be coming to a stop over there in turn number 4, so some trouble for last year's Indiana Motor Speedway champion. And very unfortunate as he was racing his way toward the top 10. And it looks like this time by, are we going to see some pit lane action? Indeed we are. There goes Weinkoff, there goes Jones, there goes Bowen. Everybody seeming to find their way down to pit lane here at the midway point. See if anybody's brave enough to stay out. It doesn't look like anybody wants to. All the way through. We have one. It is the lap car of Gallagher, though. So it looks like we are going to see everyone filing down pit lane here at lap number 72. Eric, it looks like it's getting busy down there.
Well, it is real busy, Matt, and obviously, as you can see, everybody on pit road, lots of takers and a lot of stuff going on. You can hear the wrenches going, tires being changed, cars jacked up, adjustments being made all up and down pit road. There's still a lot of work that some of these contending cars think they need to do to make their cars go faster. Chad Finley's crew is the first crew up on the wall ready to make adjustments to the vehicle. That car up on all 4 jack stands, refilling it with fuel. A couple of stalls down, about 3 stalls away from him. There's Eric Jones in car number 51. The KBM crew quick to work, and they are giving a lot of attention to the right side of the car, putting new rubber on the right side of the Toyota Camry number 51. Looking further down the line, changes being made. Nate Hosline, 87, his car up on all 4s. Jeremy Miller, the race leader, his car getting worked on also. Back down pit road towards the middle in front of Eric Jones, Johnny Van Doren's car number 8. We mentioned him on the first break at lap 37. They brought that car to the attention of the Lisa Thomas Salon crew and went under the hood to work and made a couple other quick tweaks as well. Johnny was making a little bit of progress trying to step back through the field, but again, here at this break, they're back under the hood of the Lisa Thomas Salon car number 8.
Will it still be Chris Weinkoff leading at that portion of the Howie Lettow Memorial 150? He gets to reset the pace here once again alongside Eric Jones as we get ready to go back to green flag conditions. Anderson Bowen, Chad Finley in that second row, and then the 77 of Ross Kenseth and the 8 of John Hunter Nemechek. Again, they roll through 3 and 4, coming back. Tom White poised in the flag stand. We are back to green. What a restart it was for Chris Weinkoff on the outside. And Jones falling back just a little bit. Once again, Finley getting to the outside and taking third away from Anderson Bowen. Meanwhile, it is John Hunter Nemechek on the outside of Ross Kenseth trying to slide back into the top 5. Kenseth won't allow. There's a mad scramble going into 3 and 4 again. Everybody jousting for position. Back up front, it's going to be a battle for the second spot. No, we have a yellow, and it comes as Joel Tyson slows on the backstretch. Joel Tyson going around, bringing out the yellow. You can see him slowly creeping into turn number 3 as the Milwaukee Mile safety crew will head on up over toward turn number 2 to pick up some debris. John Hunter Nemechek could be a bit of a wild card again. He gets that outside line over to the right-hand side of Ross Kenseth. If he can follow the tire tracks of Finley and maybe clear Bowen, we might have a shot to slide up into that top 3. Just past the halfway point now, 76 down, 74 remain. Weinkoff and Jones get ready to lead the field back once again. We are green. And look at this, Anderson Bowen right down to the inside, wasting no time as Eric Jones sees one on the outside, one on the inside. Finley and Bowen now side by side. We're 3 wide behind them as Kraus falls back a pair of spots. Once again, everybody scrambling for position. Best one out of this one, it turns out to be Chad Finley. He moves up to second, Bowen to third, but here comes Eric Jones looking for a spot back in the top 3. Finley sees Jones taking a peek down to the inside line. Bowen running in fourth. John Hunter Nemechek has now pulled into fifth. Johnny Sauter running in the sixth spot. Top 7 breaking away just a little bit. Ross Kenseth, the caboose on that freight train. Here again comes Eric Jones to the inside, looking for the second spot on Finley. John Hunter Nemechek to the inside of Anderson Bowen. The winner of the Jags race is now up into the top 4, looking for the Milwaukee Mile sweep. He'll close it in on Chad Finley, entering 3 and 4, dives down to the inside, and here comes John Hunter Nemechek, looking for the third spot as he's door-to-door with Chad Finley. Nemechek with the run. He got a little sideways going into the turn, but he's able to execute the pass. Finley trying with a rebuttal on the high side. Too late. Nemechek slides it up top. Doesn't give Finley a lot of room. Now he has to come down to the bottom. They race into 3 and 4. Nemechek with a lot of space out top. Charges on the outside line, trying to hold off Chad Finley. With the run out of the turn, Nemechek has now secured a third. We'll see if Nemechek can go and slice and dice with the top 2 now. It is Eric Jones starting to take a few more looks down to the inside of Weinkauf. Now behind Nemechek, here's Johnny Sauter ready to put the challenges to Chad Finley. Into 3 and 4, it's Sauter down on the bottom line. We'll see if he can get that run, find the grip. Remember, Finley's been real good up top on exit. Here they come down the straightaway. Sauter keeps it even. Johnny Sauter into 4th now. Finley falls back to 5th. So those 2 drivers that already pitted on lap 37 and again at the midway point, up to 3rd and 4th. Have to wonder if they'll take that 3rd pit stop. Might not do it and might force the top 2 to refrain from doing it as well. To the inside, Sauter ready to put the challenge to John Hunter Nemechek. No dice that time, and he'll have to slide it back into his tire tracks down the backstretch. Chris Weinkauf still with a healthy lead over Eric Jones, riding in the 2nd spot. He's got a bit of a cushion back to John Hunter Nemechek back in 3rd. And fading a little bit now in the 4th spot is Johnny Sauter. Ross Kenseth still rounding out the top 5. Excuse me, that's Finley rounding out the top 5. Anderson Bowen, Ross Kenseth now scrapping for the 6th spot in 1 and 2. Kenseth trying to get to the inside of Anderson Bowen. He'll turn him aside. Once again, the high line prevails on exit of turn number 2. Now Griffin McGrath starting to close it in on Ross Kenseth, entering 3 and 4. Jones closing the gap on Chris Weinkauf once again within a car length now as they race down into turns 1 and 2. Weinkauf stretched it out to about 2 down the straightaway. Jones closing again through the turns. Down to about a car length once again, but Weinkauf with a nice run down the back straight. Motors away just a little bit from Eric Jones. That was lap number 85. This time by 86 in the books. Still showing the way, Chris Weinkauf in the 75. Johnny Sauter keeping close tabs on everything that John Hunter Nemechek is doing right now, surveying what the young driver to North Carolina has learned from the Jegs race. Johnny Sauter coming off of 2 straight 3rd place finishes here in the ARCA Fast Races, says he desperately wants to be the next Sauter to find victory lane here at the Milwaukee Mile. Now taking a peek to the inside of Nemechek. Real close quarters that time going into 1 and 2. It almost looked like the 5 car was rubbing on the 8 just a little bit. And Nemechek says not impressed. On the outside, gets back away from Sauter to the tune of about 4 car lengths down the backstretch going into 3 and 4. Sauter will have to go back to 4th, hit the reset button and try again. Taking a little look up high, Sauter closes it back in on John Hunter Nemechek. Down the straightaway, they'll enter 1 and 2, and now once again Johnny Sauter looks inside. The inside line might be the shorter way around the track, but you can see those drivers finding a lot of grip up top. Finding that extra little bit of momentum and getting away each time out of the turns. Here's Sauter closing it in again. Right back on the bumper of the 8 car. Again, close quarters down the straightaway. Does Sauter have the run this time? Nose to nose as they hit the stripe, going into 1 and 2. Sauter with a power move into 1, going to take the spot away. And the slide job up the track as well. Johnny Sauter now to 3rd. So Sauter to the 3rd spot. Now he gets away from John Hunter just a bit. And it will be the task of trying to close in on the top 2. Chris Wyckoff, Eric Jones at the stripe this time, lap number 90. Here is Jones now taking a look to the inside of Wyckoff. Not a lot of space there. Those two almost come together out of the turn. Things getting a little bit heated up front. Jones sensing that he's running out of time in this one. Still plenty of time to go. However, he's ready to put the challenges on the 75 of Wyckoff. Again down the front stretch. Jones taking a look to the inside. Wyckoff turns him away again. Jones will have to settle back into the 2nd spot. Maybe Jones knows who's sitting back there in 3rd right now, starting to close the gap and might want to get around Wyckoff before that 5 car catches up. Door to door this time down the backstretch. Wyckoff with a little bit better of a run going into 3 and 4. He's not clear though. Here comes Eric Jones. Door to door with Wyckoff. Slides to the inside. Takes the lead away. Drifts up. Eric Jones now to the lead on lap number 92. Wyckoff going to try to take it right back, and while your leaders were scrapping for that top spot, Johnny Sauter closed the gap a little bit, but look at Eric Jones start to jump away from Chris Wyckoff. His lead at the line last lap was just by a matter of car lengths, and now Jones really starting to stretch it out over Wyckoff, and here comes Johnny Sauter looking to the inside now with the 2nd spot on Chris Wyckoff. Eric Jones in just a lap builds that lead to over a 2nd. But now it is Johnny Sauter running in the 2nd spot as he gets around Chris Wyckoff. Does he have enough to get up there and challenge Eric Jones? Look, trying to make it 2 in a row for Kyle Busch Motorsports, showing the way here at the Milwaukee Mile. Sauter chopped away at that disadvantage a little bit. Jones's lead was a little over a 2nd on Wyckoff the prior lap. Sauter chopped it down to 0.985 seconds. As they come to the stripe this time for lap 95, we'll see where Eric Jones's lead over Johnny Sauter falls in. Sauter now down to 0.8 of a second as he reels in Eric Jones. Meanwhile, the descent of Chris Wyckoff continues. Now he has to deal with the 8 car. John Hunter Nemechek looking to the inside of Wyckoff down the backstretch. Into 3 and 4. We'll see if Nemechek can do exactly what the 51 car of Jones did. Yes, he can. Nemechek taking a spot away. Chad Finley ready to pounce as well. Finley to the inside down the front stretch. Bowen and Griffin McGrath also closing the gap on the 75 car. Anderson Bowen to the inside of Wyckoff. He'll take a spot away. And here comes Griffin McGrath, Chris Wyckoff. Trying to do all he can to hold on now, but he might lose one more to Griffin McGrath. So put Griffin McGrath now up to the 6th spot. Wyckoff now back to 7th. Eric Jones' lead still stays a little over 2/3 of a second. 0.698 over Johnny Sauter. He's got a pretty healthy advantage. Almost 3 full seconds back to John Hunter Nemechek in 3rd. Chad Finley running 4th. Anderson Bowen rounds out the top 5. Maybe not for long, though, because here comes Griffin McGrath ready to challenge to the inside of Anderson Bowen. Tucks it in line, coming out of turn number 4. Trying to pick up a little bit of that wind resistance from the 29 of Anderson Bowen down the front straightaway. McGrath continues to follow him closely. Tim Sauter, 99 car. How about the run that he's had? He pitted early on as well. Made some adjustments, and that machine looking good. Tim Sauter quietly up to the 7th spot in the 99. Johnny Sauter cutting the lead, that time down to 4/10 of a second as he slowly closes the gap on Eric Jones in the 51. John Hunter Nemechek not making up much ground on that lead duo, and he might have to deal with Chad Finley soon as well. Put another lap on the 5 of Will Gallagher to the stripe this time. 100 laps in, 50 laps remaining for Eric Jones and the gang. Johnny Sauter's got it down to 3/10 of a second that time as he continues to fill up that rear view mirror of the 51 car. And look at this. Trouble for the 75 of Chris Weinkoff. He led so much of this one. And he's going to pull it onto pit lane. Heartbreak for the 75 of Chris Weinkoff. Coming out of turn number 4, we're going to have a battle here for the 3rd spot as Chad Finley tries to get to the outside of John Hunter Nemechek. Right behind Griffin McGrath, putting on some pressure. And more trouble for another contender. Travis Sauter hasn't had the day that he had expected in the 5, and now he is down on pit lane. So a pre-race favorite and a mid-race favorite, both dropping out here just past lap number 100 onto pit lane. It's now lap 102, and John Hunter Nemechek continues to show the way in that battle for the 3rd spot. Finley has fallen back just a bit. Anderson Bowen and trying to find a little bit more to get past Griffin McGrath. All of the slicing and dicing from 3rd on back has allowed Tim Sauter to close the gap on that battle. We'll see if Sauter can close in here on the top 5 before we get to that last competition caution. McGrath putting a little bit more pressure on Chad Finley this time at turn number 4, ready to turn the dial and see if he can work his way past Finley into 4th. Bowen looks in the rear view mirror, and Tim Sauter is closing in quickly in the 99. Starting to tighten the gap on your fast qualifier here for the ARCA Midwest Tour. As you see Sauter diving right down to the inside line, closing it in on Anderson Bowen. Right as McGrath goes back to work on Finley. Best battles coming out of turn number 4 right now. It is McGrath looking to the inside on Chad Finley for the 4th spot. Can he make the run this time? Finley's been good up top when he's needed to be. And there he goes again on the outside. It turns McGrath away. Those two scrapped pretty nicely before the first competition caution at lap 37. And the result holds as Finley gets away from Griffin McGrath once more. Brett Kirchner, some trouble, going to go down out of pit lane. We turn our attention back to the battle for the lead. It is now just car lengths separating 1st from 2nd. Eric Jones showing the way down the backstretch. Johnny Sauter trying to close the gap as they go into 3 and 4. There is Sauter within striking distance now. Closing in on Eric Jones's back bumper. They'll exit turn number 4. Sauter right there looking for a chance to get around Eric Jones. Sauter takes a peek down to the inside. Jones giving it up high, trying to get that run off of the turn to get away from Johnny Sauter. He will again. Out to about 3 car lengths. Sauter not going to make this easy at all on Eric Jones. We saw the KBM car in victory lane 1 season ago. And we have trouble for Sauter. Johnny Sauter in the 2nd spot. Slows in turn number 4. Right up the racetrack, and he's going to pull it down onto pit lane. Oh my, Sauter had just closed the gap on Eric Jones, and now trouble for Johnny Sauter. Crew going right to the right side of his machine. What a tough break for Johnny Sauter, just 5 laps away from that competition yellow. You have to wonder if maybe they would have been able to rectify whatever problem he had under that yellow. but something amiss on the 5 of Johnny Sauter. And now Eric Jones in his own zip code is 6 seconds ahead of John Hunter Nemechek. They'll come to the stripe this time. It'll be lap number 109. Lap 109 will be 3 laps away from that third and final competition caution. John Hunter Nemechek running now in the second spot in the 8 car. And look at this, Griffin McGrath has found his way around Chad Finley. Johnny Sauter emerging from the 5 car. Terrible luck here in this event for Johnny Sauter as he was closing in on Eric Jones, and something goes wrong. 110 in this time by. Griffin McGrath putting pressure on John Hunter Nemechek. Wants the inside line, decides against it, pulls right back onto the bumper of the 8 car going down the straightaway. That allows Nemechek to get away just a bit from Griffin McGrath. So now the last hope for a Sauter is Tim Sauter. He's up to the 6th spot in that 99, looking pretty good. Closing in on Anderson Bowen. Eric Jones, 5.2 seconds ahead. He knows that lead is big, so a chance for him as we close in on that competition yellow, maybe to back off just a little bit and save some of the equipment. Lead now down to 4.7 seconds, so he's given up almost a full 2 seconds to John Hunter Nemechek as we near that competition yellow, but most certainly Jones doing that to save it just a little bit, knowing that that lead is going to shrink anyway. It is Jones exiting turn 4 this time. He'll come down to the stripe. Lap number 112 is on the board. We'll make sure we get everybody across the line before that competition caution comes out. Any passes that happen after the start-finish line will not count. Anything beforehand will, as Kraus and Ross Kenseth going for a spot there. That's for 7th. Everybody going to be coming across the line here as Eric Jones exits turn number 4. Tom White going to flip the switch. And the yellow is out. Competition caution, 3rd and final. And we are at the final break. And the last chance for these teams to take that pit stop if they need it. Eric Jones's lead had shrunk from about 6.2 seconds down to 3.976 after Johnny Sauter had.
Here they come.
It is John Hunter Nemechek sacrificing the 2nd spot to come down victory lane. Anderson Bowen will give up a top 5 spot as well. Everybody else well outside the top 10. Stephen Wallace, the 5 of Spencer Waters, Austin Nason, Gary Lamont, Joey Muccichario, Matt Kasurik, Stephen Nassi, Nick Murgic, Cardell Potter, racing Jason Weinkoff. Those are the cars down on pit lane. And we will see an interesting piece of strategy coming up here for John Hunter Nemechek and Anderson Bowen. And Eric, I like your thought process, especially on Anderson Bowen, backtracking a little bit. You know you've got the cars set fast time. Why not come in? Obviously, those drivers not coming here for points, as a lot of the other ARCA Midwest Tour drivers are, so they don't want to give up track position and potentially precious spots and points. You can see guys like John Hunter Nemechek, Anderson Bowen, they came here to win, and this might just be the only way they can do it. And as we had mentioned a few times, that outside line seems to be the line that takes off, and look who's right behind Eric Jones. Quietly moving through the field, the 99 of Tim Sauter. Restarts right behind Jones. We'll see if those two can take off. Mark Kraus been hanging around toward that top 5 all day long as well. He'll start on the outside of Ross Kenseth in row number 3. John Hunter Nemechek buried back there in row number 6. Bowen in row number 7. Eric Jones and Griffin McGrath get ready to lead the field back to green. 38 laps remaining in the Howie Lettow Memorial 150, and we're back to it. What a run by McGrath that time going into turn number 1. He's going to try to seal off the lead. Slides up the track, almost 3 wide for the lead. Finley trying to go down to the bottom. Griffin McGrath takes the lead away. Eric Jones falls back to the second spot. Here comes the charge on the outside for Tim Sutter, trying to take third away from Finley as John Hunter Nemechek starts to pick off some spots quickly down low. Look at Nemechek rotate, gets past Hasli, goes down to the inside. Nemechek working his way up, but the yellow is out. Yellow comes out. We had some cars up toward the marbles over in turns 1 and 2. Might have left a little bit of debris down. I believe it was the 5 of Will Gallagher. Also trouble for the 5 of Spencer Waters, and he's just going to pull that right back into the cold pit area. Coming your way, Eric. Wow, what a restart that was for Griffin McGrath. Unfortunately, though, that we'll have to see if it holds up, because we do have to go back through the timing and scoring. And if he is diagnosed to way to turn aside Griffin McGrath on this restart, it'll come at lap number 117. Base truck with the lights off, going to pull it off on the backstretch. Eric Jones gets to lead the field back to green. He'll set the pace going into 3 and 4. McGrath watches him on the outside. Now McGrath nudging ahead a little bit. Eric Jones lagging back. Now going to try to get that jump on McGrath on the outside as we go back to green. I don't know about this one. Tommy White displaying that lazy green. Yellow comes out right away. ARCA Midwest Tour officials did not like that start, so we're going to try it again. No start. No start. They didn't like the way Eric Jones kind of laid back and jumped away. Need to keep that field even all the way out of turn number 4 and coming down to the stripe, so we'll try it once again. Griffin McGrath and Eric Jones setting the tone down the backstretch. Finley and Tim Sauter right behind him as they enter turns 3 and 4. Looking better this time. Yeah, you can see McGrath getting away from Jones just a little bit again. Now they're even once more. Coming out of turn number 4 to the stripe, and we're green. And McGrath gets freight trained to the inside by Finley. Here comes Kenseth. Sauter falls back a spot as Eric Jones has gotten away. Oh, Hasli into the outside retaining wall. Hasli and Johnny Van Dorn coming together on a turn number 2. It was a traffic jam out of the second turn. Things breaking loose. Hasli ends up going right into the outside retaining wall. Nowhere for Johnny Van Dorn to go, and the yellow comes out once more. Let's see how the restart between Eric Jones and Griffin McGrath plays out again. Finley and Tim Sauter there, just in case something happens between the top 2. Now Jones and McGrath getting a little bit of run. This time they'll pull even coming out of 4. This looks like a much better start as they come back down to the green. Just the restart McGrath might have needed. He noses ahead. Jones tries to fight back on the outside. Out of the turn, look at the rocket shot from Jones. He'll get back away from McGrath. Finley into 3rd. Back up to the 4th spot. Tim Sauter, Ross Ketz at the 5th. Moving up a bit. Look at John Hunter Nemechek working his way down low. He's going to slide into the 7th spot. Not done. Looking to the inside of Jeremy Miller. Here comes John Hunter working his way back through. Nemechek is up to the 6th spot. We'll see what he's got for the top 5. 128 in the books now. Eric Jones has gotten away just a bit from Griffin McGrath. Finley, Sauter, Ross Kenseth now with a mirror full of John Hunter Nemechek. Looking for the Sunday sweep here at the Milwaukee Mile. Down to the inside of Ross Kenseth. Trying to get back into the top 5 down the front stretch. John Hunter Nemechek with a run going into turns 1 and 2. Sliding on the inside line. He's right behind Tim Sauter, who's challenging Chad Finley for the 3rd spot. John Hunter Nemechek out of 2 will clear the 77 car of Kenseth. No, not yet. He fights back on the outside. Door to door going into 3 and 4. Nemechek finding some nice grip down low. Kenseth washes up. Nemechek now up to 5th, and he's right on the tailgate of the 99. Sauter sensing a little pressure coming from John Hunter. Nemechek slides down low. Finley, like we've seen before, fights back up top. Nemechek trying to figure out where to go. He's going to take a look up top this time, going into 3 and 4. Here comes John Hunter Nemechek up top for the 4th spot now. Continuing to roll back through the field. John Hunter Nemechek to the outside for 4th. John Hunter Nemechek down to the 4th spot. Tim Sauter falls back to 5th. Next on the radar to be Chad Finley. Time running out. Is it enough for John Hunter Nemechek not only to catch up to the top 3, but to pass them as well? He's closing it back in on Chad Finley. Taking a look to the inside. Not quite enough to make a run this time, though. Nemechek taking a little peek down low on Chad Finley. Let's see if he can do what Tim Sauter couldn't and get that run down on the bottom. Not this time. Again, Chad Finley finding a good run on the outside. Meanwhile, we turn our attention back to the other driver that pitted at the last competition yellow. That's Anderson Bowen. Starting to close the gap now on the 66 of Stephen Wallace. Surveying the top side this time through 3 and 4. Keep your eye on Anderson Bowen. Anderson Bowen in the 8th spot will be ready to challenge for 7th this time as they exit turn number 2. Bowen right back on the bumper of the 66, closing in down the backstretch. Bowen wants to take a look to the inside. Sauter will say, Wallace says no. Chops him off down to the inside line. Bowen this time though, side by side at the turn number 4. Anderson Bowen, fast qualifier for this event, back up to 7th. Meanwhile, Finley going to start scrapping with the 64 of Griffin McGrath. You know who likes seeing this? Eric Jones. He's building that lead back up. Jones almost out to a 2nd over that battle for the 2nd spot. John Hunter Nemechek's got a fast racer, but he's got to clear those 2 to get up to Eric Jones. Jones's lead now up to 1.1 seconds. Here comes John Hunter Nemechek to the inside of Chad Finley again. Finley been playing that outside line at a turn number 2 to perfection all day long. Once again turns away John Hunter Nemechek. Trying to close it back up on the 64 McGrath. Here comes Nemechek though. Once again taking a peek to the inside of Finley. Jones starting to grow that lead in the 51 car. What does Nemechek have this time to the inside of Chad Finley? He's got the exact same thing. Absolutely nothing as Finley turns him away once more. Time starting to run out for John Hunter Nemechek. He's gotten back up into the top 4. Having a hard time working his way into the top 3 though. 1:37 this time. A 13 remain for Eric Jones and the gang. Trouble for the 77 of Jonathan Island down the front stretch. 3rd place driver in ARCA Midwest Tour standings. We've already seen trouble for the top 2, and now the 3rd place driver, the 77 car. Island might not make it around. He's up in turn number 2, slowing, and he's not going to have enough momentum to get back to the pit area, and that'll bring out the yellow. Not at all what Eric Jones wanted to see. Had some trouble getting around Finley in the 64 of McGrath, but if he can do it right away on the restart, right behind the 51 of Eric Jones, those 2 may be able to step away to settle this one amongst themselves. By the way, Jonathan Island in the 77 car going to be pulling back out, so looks like the team doing some quick work to that machine, and he'll get back out and see if he can maintain some spots and pick up some ARCA Midwest Tour points. Here comes that critical restart. It could be the last. It'll be lap number 141 off the board this time as we go back to green. Nemechek thinking about splitting the difference there. McGrath trying to hold off Jones, not going to work. And here comes Finley down to the inside. Chad Finley going to take that third spot back. John Hunter Nemechek up top trying to clear Finley this time as they go into turns 3 and 4. McGrath has settled into the second spot. Finley too strong right now for John Hunter Nemechek to clear. They'll exit turn number 4. Jones has stretched that lead back out. John Hunter Nemechek still trying to take third away from Chad Finley. Finley keeping it down low. He's ready to put some pressure on McGrath. Won't be able to do it though. Finley seals the spot and then slides right in front of John Hunter Nemechek. That seals off his run. And now here comes Tim Sauter closing in. Down to the inside of the 4th spot. Also into the mix. How about Anderson Bowen closing back in? He's back toward the top 5 as he goes to the inside of Ross Ketson. Oh, Ketson and Bowen almost got together down the front stretch, and here comes Anderson Bowen now. To the inside of Ketson, that will be the battle for the 5th spot. Excuse me, for the 6th spot, but Ketson gets a nice run on the outside. Sauter is taking a spot away from John Hunter Nemechek. He'll be back in a 4th. Nemechek trying to take that spot right back. Anderson Bowen down to the inside, gets a little sideways, and has to back out of the inside of Ross Ketson. Eric Jones is away, so is McGrath, so is Finley. Battle on for the 4th spot. John Hunter Nemechek going to get that spot back though. 99 if Sauter falls back to 5th. When they hit the stripe this time, it'll be lap number 145. Eric Jones 5 laps away from a KBM repeat. John Hunter Nemechek still has a mirror full of Tim Sauter as those two come out of turn number 2. Meanwhile, Anderson Bowen has fallen back into the clutches of Stephen Wallace, ready to challenge. That would be the battle for the 7th spot. Some trouble there for Austin Nason, flat right front, crushed in the door as well. Might have made some contact with the outside retaining wall. He'll roll it into the pits and will stay green. Everybody getting back in the line. Nemechek starting to get away from Tim Sauter just a bit. We'll see if he can close it in on Chad Finley. They're all still chasing the 51. The lead up to about 10 car lengths right now for the 51 of Eric Jones. 3 laps away from victory here at the Milwaukee Mile. Jones's lead just about a second over Griffin McGrath. Then about a second back to Finley. He has about a half a second to John Hunter Nemechek with the same advantage back to the 5th place car of Tim Sauter. Griffin McGrath running out of time to try to chop away at the disadvantage of Eric Jones. Jones builds up the lead just a little bit more. We might have a battle brewing here for the 3rd spot, though. John Hunter Nemechek won a little earlier today. Would like to finish on that podium once again. Ready to challenge Chad Finley here over the final lap and a half. Coming down to the stripe this time, Eric Jones will see the white flag. 1 lap away from a win in the Howie Lettow Memorial. We'll see if John Hunter Nemechek's got a little something for Chad Finley here on the final circuit. Going to dive down to the inside at turns 1 and 2. Nemechek gets there once again. Finley, strong up top, gets away. Nemechek will have one final chance through 3 and 4 in that battle for the 3rd spot. Took the lead. Fought off Griffin McGrath. Had a couple of restarts. It'll be a repeat for KBM. Eric Jones victorious at the Milwaukee Mile. McGrath 2nd, 3rd to Finley, 4th goes to John Hunter Nemechek. And Tim Sauter will round out the top 5 in the 99. Well, we talked a lot during qualifying and before the race about all of the accolades that have been received so far by this young driver from Mooresville, North Carolina. Of course, one of the turning points of his career was a win in the Snowball Derby a couple of seasons ago, where he was noticed by the guy who is now his boss. He was the youngest winner ever in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series 1 year ago in Phoenix. Youngest ever winner at Oktoberfest race weekend with the ASA Late Model Series. And he'll put his name in the record books as a winner of the Howie Lettow Memorial 150. Eric Jones victorious. I want to talk to the boss man about how to do one of those burnouts here at the Milwaukee Mile. A lot of work done by that team all weekend long. A couple of different drivers, including former ARCA Midwest Tour competitor and last year's Tundra Super Late Model Series champion Nick Panitsky putting some time in. And it all helps as Eric Jones emerges from the car out of the front stretch. He is victorious here at the Milwaukee Mile. Gives a good point back to the crew, well deserved, and he wants that checkered flag ready to take it for a ride. Just like the boss man would. Coming off of his first appearance at a 1.5-mile track this past weekend in the Camping World Truck Series. Freshly turned 18 years of age, so yet another youngest going on the resume of Eric Jones, as he will now be the youngest ARCA Midwest Tour winner here at the Milwaukee Mile. We'd have to check the record books, might be the youngest overall as well, as Eric Jones just keeps building up that resume. And folks, you might be witnessing right here one of the better ones to come through the ranks. The Michigan native who now calls Mooresville, North Carolina home, will be visiting Howie Lettow Memorial Victory Lane, A.J. Foyt Victory Lane here in just a moment with Eric Hedefeld. As he drives away, Eric Jones, one more time of the burnout on the front stretch.